Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 26.1 RC or release candidate has been out for a few days, and iOS 26.0.1 has been out for over a month. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 26.1 RC is out. What's new video. We'll talk about the latest Apple news, there's some new features to talk about, and we'll talk about the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page. At the time of this video, there's over 18,000 votes and 191 comments. I've gone over all the comments to determine what the update is like for most people, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple this week released the repair tools for iPhone 17, iPhone Air, iPhone 17 Pro, and iPhone 17 Pro Max. It's available in many different countries, and you can repair things such as the display you can see here. So if you want to try it on your own, it's over $370 in the United States, but you do have the option to repair different things such as the bottom speaker, the camera, you've got the logic board, and pretty much anything you would need to replace. So that's available now in specific areas, many areas around the world, but hopefully it expands further than that. It looks like Apple may finally be on track when it comes to Siri. According to Tim Cook, he said that the new enhanced Siri is on track to launch next year in a statement he gave to CNBC's Stephen Kovac around the time of the earnings call this week. So they talked about their earnings for iPhone and more, and it looks like we're going to get that Siri as planned next year. Tim Cook also confirmed that we may be getting more options for AI other than just ChatGPT. So if we go into our Apple Intelligence settings and then scroll down, we have the option for ChatGPT. It's long been rumored that we would get things such as Gemini, maybe we'll get Claude and others, so we could see that in the near future. He said the intention is to integrate with more people over time when he was talking about AI. Apple has released a new data set called Pico Banana 400K, and that's comprised of 400,000 images. They published a paper about it, and it's to help improve AI editing of photos based on text prompts. This was published by Apple Research, and it's available for non-commercial use of training AI models. So you can see it here. I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out yourself, but here's all the information about it with different photos as well. If you're someone that uses CarPlay and you have a Toyota EV that's from 2023 or newer, it looks like they're going to integrate it directly into their cars. What that means is you'll be able to use EV routing. You'll see here as they posted on the Toyota website, where EV routing will work directly with CarPlay in specific Toyota models. For example, if you go to maybe search for a location in Maps and you don't have enough charge to get there, it can plan your route based on chargers that are available along that route. So this is something similar to what we have with Teslas, Rivians, Lucids, and other things, but now it will be implemented directly into CarPlay for Toyota. And it's only available on a few other cars as well, so there's not a whole lot of cars that support this, so it's great to see Toyota supporting this. When it comes to new features this week, well, there was one feature that many people like, some people don't, and it has to do with your alarm. So for example, if we go into our clock here, and maybe we'll go into alarms, and with the alarms, when it activates, there's now the option to slide to stop. Now, this is something that Apple is updating, and you can now disable or use it if you'd like. If you don't like the slide to stop, you can disable it by going into settings. And then if we go back into accessibility, within accessibility, we'll scroll down to where we have touch. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we have prefer single touch actions. If we turn this on, you'll be able to press to stop the alarm. So we'll try it again. And you'll see now with the alarm going off, with that option enabled, we can now just press stop if we would like. So you can enable that if you'd like, if you were having an issue with that. Now with Apple Intelligence, Apple is adding more languages, and many people were wondering what specific languages have been added, and it looks like under languages, Apple has added Danish, Dutch, Norwegian, Portuguese from Portugal, Swedish, Turkish, Chinese traditional, and Vietnamese. So all of those are now available for native speakers there, and you can choose that for Apple Intelligence. So let me know if you're using this already on the RC, or if you're just using it maybe with English or something else. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention as far as features has to do with Vision Pro. In an updated support document, you'll see here it says use AirPods with Apple Vision Pro and how to get the best headphone experience with Apple Vision Pro. One of the odd things it says down here at the bottom is the ultra-low latency audio on Apple Vision Pro is not available in Japan. Maybe this has to do with different frequencies allowed there or something else, but it's odd to see that as an option when you're using your AirPods Pro that you can't have the better audio experience. So maybe they'll be able to update this in the future. Also within the code found by AaronP613 on X, you'll see here it says iOS 26.1 RC adds a regional warning for users in India for the cleanup feature in the Photos app. It says unable to use this image due to laws and regulations. So based on maybe the image type, it won't let you edit this. We don't really know, but maybe it's scanning the image to determine the type based on certain laws and doesn't allow you to edit it. So I'd love to hear from you if you've seen this message pop up and you're using the RC version. There's also some app releases to talk about this week. One of them has to do with WhatsApp. Many users here or viewers here use WhatsApp. In the United States, not so much, but it looks like there's going to be an Apple Watch update soon. So finally, we'll have an app for that if you utilize WhatsApp, and we'll have a native Apple Watch app. Also, WhatsApp is gaining a per chat storage option in the future as well. So if we go to the WhatsApp beta info website, you'll see here that they have some more information about it, and you'll see that we'll have storage options in the near future. So hopefully we see that very soon. For those using WhatsApp, you'll be able to manage that a little bit better. Also, Apple could be releasing Pixelmator Pro main stage compressor in motion soon, again found by a post by AaronP613 based on App Store IDs he found. So hopefully we'll see that soon. Apple's sort of been quiet with the release of Pixelmator Pro when it comes to macOS Tahoe. The icon still doesn't even fit properly, so hopefully they update that very soon, and maybe we'll get some additional options there. Also, Canva acquired Affinity last year and has now released Affinity Design Suite as a free design app. It's currently available for Mac and Windows outside the App Store, so if you want to check it out, you'll see you can go to Canva, see their information about it, and you can use Affinity for free. So that's great and available now. When it comes to the latest iPhones, with the iPhone 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, iPhone Air, and iPhone 17, it looks like it's doing very well this year, and Tim Cook said in an earnings call the other day that they expect the December quarter to be the best ever in the history of the company. So this is no surprise, as even the base iPhone has a lot to offer and is still really sold out in many places. If you're looking for specific colors, they're still not available, and it looks like many people really prefer the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. Less people prefer the iPhone Air, but Apple never really gives sales numbers, but it does seem like it's selling much better than the previous iPhone, so that's great to see. Also, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the iPhone Air. I've been using it full time. Battery life definitely improved with iOS 26.1 RC. We'll talk about that in a moment, but many people suggest I should try out the 17 Pro or 17 Pro Max. So let me know what you think of that in the comments below. I have used it quite a bit. I like both of them, but I've sort of gravitated back to the Air, but I'm not really sure which one I should use full time for the remainder of the year. So I'd love to hear what you think of that. When it comes to releases this week, well, Apple did release a new technology preview for Safari, so we have the Safari Technology Preview version 231. It released on October 30th, and it allows you to test out the latest technologies on macOS Tahoe and macOS Sequoia, so that's available now. Now, as I've mentioned before, Apple stopped signing iOS 26, which means you can only downgrade to iOS 26.0.1 or restore that version, or maybe one of the betas. So you have the option for iOS 26.1 betas. However, it looks like, based on having the RC already of iOS 26.1, that most likely Apple has canceled iOS 26.0.2. Mac Rumors saw it in their analytics, maybe they were testing it, and decided to push all of those bug fixes to iOS 26.1. So based off of that, I would expect iOS 26.1 to release to the public probably on Monday the 3rd or early next week. That's typically what we see every year, and then as soon as maybe the next day, we could see an iOS 26.2 Beta 1. Now, we may see it next week. We could see it the week after that. So I wouldn't expect maybe iOS 26.2 to launch to the public until maybe early December, and that would be the last one until next year. But let me know what you think of that in the comments below, which version you're running. I'd love to hear from you. As far as the overall experience, well, first let's talk about AirPods Pro 3, as it seems quite a few people are having an issue with AirPods Pro 3 with static noise when using active noise cancellation. I haven't experienced this myself on my AirPods Pro 3, however, I am having an issue with them constantly staying charged. So basically, you'll see the case here is at 46%. It's a bit of an issue as it seems like I'm constantly charging the case. It drains much faster than my AirPods Pro 2, and while it does technically have less battery life with the case, it still seems a bit odd that it's draining so fast. I've heard this from a lot of people as well. Sound quality and everything else has been great, but overall issues seem to be plentiful, at least for static and charging issues. Now, when it comes to the iOS 26.0.1 experience, I've talked about this at length in previous videos, but it hasn't really gotten any better. Many people say it's laggy, swiping between different screens, so if we swipe back and forth between the different screens, some people are seeing a lot of lag there, and many people say there's poor RAM management. I've noticed this myself when going into different apps and going back in, specifically things such as YouTube and Instagram, and also recently many have said that they've had overheating issues with battery drain, so that would mean the processor's working hard in the background, heating things up. But I think the number one issue I see, other than lag, is Face ID. So Face ID seems to be an issue for some people. I haven't seen that on the newer phones, but many people see a delay there. Many people are still having an issue with notifications as well. Hopefully iOS 26.1 fixes it, as I believe it does, but you can see here on Apple's forum here where there's no notification sound after the new iOS 26 update. They're talking about 26.0.1. So this is an issue many people have reported on this community post here from Apple's forums, where it seems more and more people have the issue. You can see 68 people have given it a thumbs up, and 180 people say me too, as they're having that issue. So lots of people having that issue. Again, it seems like it's resolved on iOS 26.1. Also, many people are having CarPlay issues with iOS 26.0.1. We've talked about disconnects or some people just not being able to use it altogether. However, with iOS 26.1 RC, it looks like it's fixed. So I've been using it full time, really had no disconnect issues whatsoever, and many people say that connectivity is improved for CarPlay for most people. I'm seeing better battery life, we'll talk about that in a moment, and it's a significant improvement over iOS 26.0.1. It's smoother, but again, some people are seeing a stutter. You can see it here on the iPhone Air as we're swiping back and forth from the widget page. That's the number one complaint I see about 26.1 is a stutter between pages. Now, I have found that if you're using maybe the battery options here, so we'll go back, battery, and if we go to power mode and turn off adaptive, it usually speeds things up. So with adaptive power off, swiping back and forth may seem a little bit smoother as it ramps up the processor, but overall, it still seems like it's dropping frames. So we'll turn that back on, and it has been using it regularly on this iPhone Air. Also, the wallpaper bug still exists, so you'll see how vibrant the wallpaper is. Swipe up, and it sort of desaturates. So that's a bit odd, and something I'd like to see fixed finally. I don't think it's intentional. I think there's just an issue there, as sometimes it's fixed, sometimes it isn't. But out of all of the posts on the YouTube community poll, 86% of comments say that iOS 26.1 RC is much, much better. So in general, it's better, but we could get a new build before the public release, so it's possible we'll see that. When it comes to overall performance, well, you've seen here that generally it's pretty good, other than sometimes swiping and the smoothness. Things load fast. Going into app library now works as expected right away, and scrolling is nice and smooth as well, with ProMotion being what you would expect. So it does ramp up and down based on how you're using it, but generally very smooth, except for that widget swipe there, and sometimes from page to page. We're not sure what's going on there, but it's definitely an odd visual glitch. As far as overall heat and thermals, well, let's take a look. My iPhone Air is getting a little bit warm, which is typical, but we'll run it on here and also run it on the 17 Pro Max as well. So both of these are running iOS 26.1 RC. Let's go ahead and take a look, and we'll run the benchmarks and take a look at the overall heat. We'll run it on 26.0.1 as well. On the iPhone Air running iOS 26.1 RC, you'll see in the hottest area here, we're around 40 degrees Celsius. So 39, I've seen it peak at 40. On the 17 Pro Max, we're around 29 degrees Celsius, maybe 29.5. And that's running 26.1 RC. And on iOS 26.0.1 on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, we're around 32 degrees Celsius. So definitely a difference between the versions here. Benchmarks completed, and I have the highest score I've ever seen on an iPhone 17 Pro Max running iOS 26.1 RC. 3,957 for single core, 10,171 for multi-core. Compared to an iPhone 17 Pro Max running iOS 26.0.1, it's much higher, as you can see here. Also, the iPhone Air running iOS 26.1 RC is a little bit lower, but well within the range it should be for an iPhone Air, as you can see here. So it has a lower sustained performance just because it doesn't dissipate heat as well and doesn't have the vapor chamber, but very impressive overall. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.1 RC or release candidate, well, if you're on Beta 4, definitely install it. If you're on iOS 26.0.1, you'll see an improvement, but just keep in mind it's not the final release until Apple says that this is the release coming out for the public version. So we could have the same build number if there's no additional issues, or we could have a different build number when it releases to the public. We don't know yet, as Apple hasn't said, but it seems to be pretty stable so far. So if you want to try it out, just make sure you have a backup and be aware that you can't downgrade without using a computer. When it comes to battery life of iOS 26.0.1, well, I used it full-time on the iPhone Air for a while and then switched over to iOS 26.1 RC. So I've used both on this phone full-time, so let's take a look. If we go to battery health, you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 34 cycles. With an iPhone Air, you typically have to plug it in more and charge it more. So that will affect battery health, just having a smaller battery. But if we go to all battery usage, back last Saturday or Sunday, you'll see these are my statistics for those days. So I charged it, being that I used 116% on iOS 26.0.1 and only had 4 hours and 4 minutes of screen active time. And the next day, again, used 100% of my battery and only had 3 hours and 12 minutes, again on iOS 26.0.1. However, after the update released, you'll see I used 100% and gained over an hour, 4 hours and 43 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 39 minutes of screen idle time. The next day, 2 hours because I was using it heavily outside of the house, doing different things with it. And then today, 3 hours and 1 minute, and I've only used 52%. So overall, it's doing quite well with the screen on. I didn't use it with the screen on when it was charging. So you'll see the overall usage is quite good. Again, when it released, 94% in 6 hours and 10 minutes. So much, much better battery life for me when it comes to iOS 26.1 RC on the iPhone Air. Now, when it comes to your overall experience, let's take a look at some of your comments. TTS292 says, iOS 26.1 RC is amazing on my iPhone 11. I have no Bluetooth issues, opening apps is snappy, Wi-Fi connectivity is great, battery life is smooth, and I've been getting through the day without needing to charge my phone until the end. VoiceOver is excellent so far, and iOS 26.1 is definitely ready to release to the public, unless there's other issues that need to be fixed within RC2, but I don't know for sure if we'll get that yet, but we'll have to wait and see from Apple. Emmanuel XC3NN said, running iOS 26.1 on my 17 Pro. I see a difference in smoothness and animations, my battery lasts longer than iOS 26.0.1, and my Wi-Fi and cellular connections have improved. Matt Mills 69 says, 16 Pro Max, iOS 26.1 RC, my phone can actually charge to 100% now without stopping or overheating. Thank goodness, finally. Chris Palmer 4983 said, I've been using iOS 26.1 RC on my iPhone 17 Pro. Battery life has been great. The standby battery drain has been good as well. I easily get all-day battery life with moderate use. Overall, performance has been smooth and snappy, and I have a few bugs and glitches, but none that I can recreate. No major glitches that come to mind. I would anticipate that the public release will have some minor fixes, as this RC software is not the polished release that should be pushed out to the public. Keith492 said, I'm running iOS 26.1 RC on my 16 Pro. It's very smooth and battery life has improved. Perol78 says, 26.1 is much better in every way for me than 26.0.1 on my 17 Pro Max, but my home screen is lagging like crazy if I swipe between the pages. Ol3950 says, 26.1 RC on my 16 Pro, and this is how iOS 26 should have been from day one. Battery is great, 95% of the time a very smooth experience, and overall very minor hiccups and animations. I think iOS 26 is now on the level of average iOS 18 performance, and we are heading in the right direction. Apple nailed this one. Excited for 26.2 beta. Now, if we take a look at iPhone storage, we'll go into Settings and then iPhone Storage, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see iOS 26.0.1 on the left is taking up 23.95 gigabytes as far as iOS. iOS 26.1 RC is taking up 20.29 gigabytes. Most of that is Apple Intelligence, almost 4 gigabytes larger on 26.0.1. So maybe I used it a little bit more, but I'm not sure where that's coming from. But the overall OS is around the same size, 13.88 compared to 13.67. Of course, the overall system data goes up and down as needed, so this varies depending on when you're looking at it, so I really wouldn't worry about that. Now, when it comes to the different versions, iOS 18.7.1 is the rock. iOS 18.7.1 gets an A+, it's smooth, stable, and the preferred version for reliability. Those who haven't upgraded have had no major bugs, just excellent everyday performance, but they're lacking the latest features. iOS 26.0.1, though, is pretty much the mess. It gets a D-, it's critically flawed, reports of horrible battery life are pretty much everywhere, and it has excessive heat and has major app and system glitches, an update that many regret, and many people say it was better than iOS 26, but regret updating from iOS 18. Now, when it comes to iOS 26.1 RC, that's the recovery. It fixes a lot of issues and so far gets a B+. We'll have to wait and see if it's an A, but it's a massive improvement. Battery life is excellent, and key issues like CarPlay are fixed for most, but there's still some animation stutters I showed you before, especially swiping to widgets, and fix most of the flaws that are in iOS 26.0.1, so that's great to see. Sadly, Apple still doesn't allow us to downgrade to previous versions. I would love to see that available. Many people have even asked me, can I downgrade my iPhone 17 to iOS 18? So it seems like many people are really back and forth when it comes to liquid glass, but I'm curious what you think about that in the comments below. So that's everything with iOS 26.0.1 and iOS 26.1 RC. We're only a few days away from the public release, so I can't wait for people to install that and hopefully have a better experience with iOS 26. I'm glad there's customization for liquid glass, as many wanted that, but hopefully they give us more options if this is Apple's new direction with that. But let me know your experience in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.